Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today is kind of a special video because it's part of a challenge between my cousin and I. About 2 years ago, they sent me some designs for Wreath, and I finally decided to pick one, and when I decided to pick one once she sent me, she decided she wanted to do it too, because she wants to see who can do it better, me, who has more wreath making experience, or her, who is an overall crafty person. So this, I'm going to quickly show you the design that we're going to be both trying to do. This is what it is. It's a cute little pancake wreath. I'll show this a little more close up. So, who's going to win, you think? Is it going to be my cousin, who is of Generically Yours? I will have a link in the description box to her video of the wreath, along with just her channel and any of her other social medias links that she would like me to put in my description box. So the important thing is with this challenge is we need you to watch my video all the way through, see what you think, what elements of mine did you like, then click the link, go check out her video, or go to hers first, because hers is probably going to be shorter than mine, but go to hers first if you want and check out hers, and then come back and check out mine, or vice versa, and let us know down in the comments who you think won this wreath challenge. Now, just because you're my subscriber, I do not expect you to side with me, and just because you're her subscriber, I don't expect you to side with her, I expect you to be honest. Who did what better? Like, is there going to be a part where you feel I did this part better than they did, or they did this part better than me, or overall you think she did better, or overall I did better, whatever. This is a fun challenge between my cousin and I would love for you to go to her channel and show her support by subscribing and liking any of her videos that you feel you can relate to. She's a very good drawer and does a lot of different crafty things. We're both crafty, but in our different elements. So this is where this wreath challenge is going to be kind of fun, because I haven't seen her wreath, she hasn't seen mine. We don't really know how each other's going to do stuff. So when you watch this video, I'll be watching her video for the first time, and she will be watching mine. So it's going to be really interesting to see our take on each other's wreath videos. So, okay guys, let's get into it, and I'm going to show you how I decided to try tackling this wreath design. Okay, as you saw in the intro, my cousin challenged me to this, so let's take a little closer look at the picture, and we'll go from there. So as you can see, we've got some elements. We need to get the checkerboard pattern, we need the pancake, we need the drops of syrup, and we need a syrup bottle. Again, we're going to focus on trying to do the checkerboard part first. So, how are we going to tackle the checkerboard part? Well, first, obviously, as you need a wreath ring. This one ended up being, I believe, a 12-inch metal wreath ring. I got it from the dollar store. I've used these kind a lot in videos, obviously. We're going to need red, and we're going to need some white. Now, these were not original size skeins. I would say if you get a normal red heart, red or white from like your local Walmart, those normal sizes, not the big ones, you'll be fine. This was just some leftover yarn I actually had, so I didn't have to go out and like buy any, so I didn't use, because I've actually already kind of done some of what we're going to be doing off camera so that I can be prepared. So that's why you see this white one down so small, because I've actually done some of the work ahead. So you'll see that in a little bit. But again, you're going to need these two colors so that we can make our checkerboard pattern. I'm also going to be using the Sock Loom 2, I believe this one is called. It's adjustable. This gauge is probably similar to the all-in-one loom, but it's just a little more easy to work with. So make sure you also have your looming tool and your scissors, because you're going to need to obviously change colors. So I'm going to quickly show you I'm doing these as strips. So I'll explain that a little bit, and then we'll go into how to make it a little more. So let's take a look at the strips first. So what we're going to want to end up with is these little strips right here. As you can see, we got ones that start with white, then red, then white, and then ones that are red, white, and then red. Obviously, we need these so that when we sew these together, it creates our checkerboard pattern to go around the wreath ring. So just to give you a visual. Now you have to be careful when I show you how to sew these together. You have to be really careful to make sure you don't end up sewing it the wrong way. I did that and had to redo a bunch of them because I couldn't get them to not be sewn together anymore. It was a process. So I just wanted to show you, this is our end result. There's simply the garter stitch. If you know what that is, it's a row of knit, then a row of purl. And I'm just going to quickly show how to do one, and then you're just going to take that idea and switch it out. So you're going to do so many that are this pattern of white, red, white, and then you're going to do so many that are red, white, red. And I'll end up telling you as we get closer how many I end up using for this particular wreath ring. But this is the part we need to work on, is making a bunch of these to sew together. Now you might be asking yourself, why didn't I just do a regular flat panel and change the colors out? I originally was going to do that. I just did not like the way it was working up, and I preferred the strips because I wasn't quite sure if I did a flat panel how much I would need to go around this. So, therefore, by doing the strips, then you're able to kind of determine, okay, my cat just like scared me because he went between my legs and I felt his fur. But anyhow, by doing the strips, you can easily like manipulate how many you need across. So if you choose to do a bigger or a smaller wreath, or even if you try to find a rectangle size wreath or something, by doing strips you can adjust how many you might want down, how wide you want it, and then just sew the amount you need together. So you don't end up making too long of one that isn't going to work or too short of one. You can modify it if you're doing one strip at a time. So let's go into how to make these strips. Okay, to make our strips, we're going to start with making one that's red, white, red. I'm only going to show a very little bit of how to do this because I don't want to waste people's time. Most loom knitters know the garter stitch. It's worked over 4 rows, and basically we're going to be repeating that for each square. So I don't want to get too in-depth on how to make these because I feel like this is a simple process, but I will just quickly kind of show you casting on and kind of changing the color. I'll try to make one, that's all I'm going to make, and then you'll make the other ones on your own because it's a pretty simple process once you do it. But just for those that do not know how to do the garter stitch and how to cast on or cast off this, I will show you for that. If you're someone that already knows those processes, you can probably fast forward a little bit to the part that you don't know, the part that you're interested in more about having to attach this to the wreath ring. So for those that don't know, let me quickly show you how to make one of these strips. Now the first thing I did is I had a little cheat sheet I made up for myself. This tells me how many pegs I'm casting on, and then also over here, as you can see, I'm doing the garter stitch repeated 3 times for each color. So I'm going to do the garter stitch in red for 3 times, and then I'm going to cut and tie the white, cut off the red, tie the white, and then do the white, and do the same process again. So this is basically what you need to make one of these. Again, we got our red here, that's our red up here. So the length we do for our white is here, that's our white. And then we have our red again, and that's our red. So it's pretty simple to do, and again, you can see that I'm going to cast off with a chain in between. So this is my cheat sheet, because when you're doing this, it can get very confusing. So if you write out the process, this is my tip for when you're doing patterns, if you're writing out the process on a piece of paper and you're taking this and you're just going to make your notes, as you do each part, put a little check mark next to the one you've done, because it can get very forgetful. Like if you're watching TV or something, you can easily forget that whether you did a knit or a purl. So my suggestion is, as you're working each of these rows, go ahead and just put a little check mark beside it, and that'll help you. And also it'll help you because you're going to need to make a lot of these, so you can, if you just put a little check mark, you know when you finished one whole set of red, one whole set of white, one whole set of red, and then you can just kind of use this cheat sheet over and over. So, like again, try to explain it really simple. We're just going to cast on, and all I'm going to do to kind of make this a little simpler is just we're just going to go ahead and show it. I know a lot of people know how to do this, so I do apologize for those that know. I know most of us do know the garter stitch is worked over 4 rows, but you're basically repeating it 3 times per color. So if you don't know how to do that, I just did a cast on, a regular E-wrap cast on. Then and I make my slip knot. Okay. And then I'm just placing it on the first peg. And now be very careful that you don't go past your peg. If you have a stitch marker or something, you might want to place it at a peg so you don't accidentally go past it. I had that happen once where I caught myself wrapping an extra page that I didn't need. But you're going to just go ahead and you're going to E-wrap 8 pegs. So we got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And sometimes I just count again to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I push those down because I'm just doing the E-wrap cast on. Because it doesn't really matter what cast on you do, because we're going to be attaching this to the wreath ring. You're not really going to be even seeing this part. And we I gotta get a little slack on there. And then this does not count as your first row knit, however. I'm not counting this as my first row. This is just my cast on row. Okay, so now if we look at our cheat sheet, which I'm going to get a pen or something so that I can mark off as I go, like I told you guys to. So now if you look at the cheat sheet, we need to do a knit row. So I'm going to put my cheat sheet over this way. and I'm just going to knit a row, which again, just push those down. I tend to skip the first peg because, like I said, it's not going to matter too much. And we're just going to go over. That's our knit. Don't hold it too tight because then it might be hard to knit over. So we're going to knit over. And I apologize if you hear the fan in the background. It's just a little warm in my place. And then I'm going to go over to my cheat sheet right here, and I'm just going to put a little mark to say, hey, yep, I did that first knit row, so I don't forget. And now we do the purl going back. And for those that don't know the purl, you just bring it in front. And this is where this one's a little trickier because you go into the loop you have on there, and then you just kind of swoop up that new yarn, and you put the new loop on the peg. So again, we swoop it down here, grab the new yarn, twist, turn, and get our new loop, and put the new loop on. Okay. And for me, it's a little easier if I can set it down to work it. So I'm just making those new loops, putting them on the pegs. Okay. Alright, there's our purl. So I'm not going to bore you guys with going ahead and doing all this back and forth on camera. So again, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to mark off on my cheat sheet that I did the purl. So what I'm going to do, just to make it a little faster, is I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to do the rest of this section, which means I'm going to finish off my first set of garter stitch and then do my second and my third in the red color. When I come back, we'll be switching over to the white. Okay, so as you can see by my cheat sheet, I have finished my first red square. And this is what it's going to look like on the loom. So you can see it's not that big, but now we need to switch, and now we need to do the white. And all I do, because I keep it pretty simple, there may be other ways, I just simply cut a tail, and I just attach my other one on this. So I'm just going to cut a tail for me to work with. You can hide it later. Okay, and then I just, take my new yarn, and I tie it to the old. I'm not very fancy with this. I know, like I said, there's other methods. This just seems a little, just what is comfortable to me. So I just tie the new to the old. Sometimes I double knot just to make sure. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work the red section, or the white section now. So I'm going to go off camera, and you're just going to do the same exact thing as you did for your red, but now we're going to do it in white. So, like I said, the first thing is to knit, and I know some people are questioning, like, which rows. I don't worry too much about if it looks a little off. As you can see from my sample here, like, you can kind of see where that is, but once you sew them together, that little mess up isn't going to be as noticeable as you think. So you can choose to try to wrap the first peg if you feel it's best, or you can just choose to go to the second peg like I tend to do and just go ahead and do your knit. Okay, so I'm just going to do my knit. And it locks that new color in. I go over to my cheat sheet. I just mark off that I did the knit, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work the rest of this square. Again, following my garter stitch pattern of knit a row, purl a row, knit a row, purl a row, and repeating that 3 times. So I will see you in a little bit. Okay, so I've now finished my white section, and it's going to look like this on your loom. Again, this is the wrong side of it, that's why you can see that line across. This is how the right side looks. Again, these little ones sticking up there, you could change that obviously by wrapping a different peg, but I noticed as I started sewing them together, you really didn't notice the mistake, as people would say. So now we just got to do our last set of red. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same thing I did when I wanted to start the white. I'm going to cut a tail, I'm going to add the red, and I'm going to continue this process to finish it up. So again, go ahead, and now you're going to go back to your red. You're going to go ahead and you're going to cut your tail, kind of making sure you keep what's already on the loom out of the way. So cut your tail. Oh, I hate that when the yarn doesn't want. Don't you hate that when the yarns fray sometimes? Okay, got like... Alright, so now I'm just going to take the end of my red, tie it to my white, like I said, I usually do 2 knots. It's just what I'm more comfortable with. Okay, and now I have my red on there. Tuck those tails inside, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work my sheet. I'm going to start with the knit, and I'm going to do 3 sets of garter stitch. So I'm going to go off camera and do this, and when I come back I'm going to show you how to take it off the loom. Okay, so I changed the color to red back again, and I did this part. I don't know if any of you noticed when I probably showed before. I did do the purl, I just hadn't marked it off. I just saw that, I'm like, no, I know I did the purl, I just didn't mark it off. So again, I've done this section. Now we're working on the casting off with 1 chain in between. And this can be all done on the loom. So first off, this is how it should be looking when it's on your loom, as you can see. And then this is the side that will be seen when we do the checkerboard. So to take this off is pretty simple, so just make sure you have your scissors nearby and your regular looming tool. We're not going to use a crochet hook, we're going to do everything on the loom. So again, we're casting off with 1 chain in between, which means what I actually do is I rewrap the first peg to count as 1 chain, I knit it over, I move it over, I knit it over, I wrap it around once, my chain in between, knit it over, move it over. Again, this does not have to be perfect because we're not going to be seeing this on the actual wreath. Knit 1 loop and get over there. Seriously. Okay, so then I move it over. Okay, oops, sorry. I knit it over. I rewrap it once. Knit it over. Move it over. Knit it over. Wrap it once. Knit over. Move over. Knit over, wrap it once, knit over, move over, knit over, wrap once, knit over, and move it to the final peg, and knit it over. Okay, now we have to take it off, so we're going to cut our tail back here. We don't need a huge amount. Okay, and then we're going to take the tail we have on the last peg and work it through that last stitch, if it will cooperate with me. Okay, so I'm going to lay this down, just going to work it right through the last stitch, and then take it off the peg, and give it a little tug. Again, it's not going to be perfect, and it's okay, because you can kind of stretch it out, and then I usually put a little like knot on the end, because we obviously don't want it to come apart. I don't even think that knotted. Let's try this again. I'm going to grab the room. I have been fumbling through this project. You guys have no idea how many times I've restarted filming sections because that makes no sense there. Let's try it again. I've been fumbling through this project so much. I think my cousin will probably win just on the fact that she probably didn't have to fumble as much as me. Okay. Alright, I'm giving up. This is driving me nuts. I've never had this much problems making a stinking knot in a section. Please tell me you've done that, had that happen to you before. Okay. There. And I'm not even going to worry about the straggles. They can stay. I know you're thinking, wait, they're going to be hard. They're going to hide as we do that. You can hide them if you want. I'm not worrying about them right now. The next part is now to go ahead and make a bunch of these and then reverse the pattern so you have white, red, white. So again, look at your cheat sheet, and once you do, I will tell you, I end up doing... I will put how many of this pattern I did of the red, white, red right there. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to need to do this reverse so that you have a white, red, white. So, okay, remember you're going to make so many of these and then so many of these. So for the red, excuse me, for the red, white, red, you need this many. Okay, so that many. And then for the white, red, white, you need that many. At least that's how many I use. You can go ahead and change that up. Again, if you're using a bigger wreath or a smaller wreath, you might not need as much. The next step is now to get these to be together. Alright, so like I said, we need these to be joined together. This process is going to be the most time-consuming process. I'm being honest. Let me just show you what you're aiming to end at. we're going to be sewing these together so that we can make our big long strip. This was the most time-consuming part of it. And again, I don't care about all these stragglers on the back. You can try to hide them if you want. Again, this is going to be wrapping around our wreath ring, so we're going to be able to hide a lot of these stragglers as we're sewing it onto the wreath ring. But this is to give you an idea, like, there's probably a simpler way, and I'm sure somebody will comment down below, like, why didn't you do this way? Why didn't you do it that way? It's all about doing it the way that logically works for you in your brain. And right now, this was the way that logically worked for me, was to sew these together and then turn around, just worry about the straggles later. So this is what we are going to work on. Again, it's a long thing. I don't even have a tape measure down here, but it's a very long thing. And again, this is the most time-consuming part, so don't let it deter you from making this pancake wreath, or even taking this idea and making something else with it, because that's something that I've been thinking about. Okay, so we got our long thing, so we got our nice little checkerboard. I know some people say, well, if you did another 4th strip, that'll work. But again, because we're doing this on the wreath ring, if you look real quick, we're going to be able to wrap it in a way, okay, and that will end up making it look like this. Oh, excuse me, I can't get it in camera. Like this on the side. It will be wrapping around and giving us that checkerboard look. So I'm really proud of this part because it took the longest. So let's get this, show you how I sew them together. And again, you'll be doing the same process, getting them all together so that we can get to the next part, which is putting it on the wreath. So to do that, I actually have a plastic needle. This came in one of my looming kits. I don't remember which one. I actually just came across this the other day. I knew I used to have purple ones that maybe came with my original Nifty Knitters. I honestly think this one must have came with maybe my Martha Stewart loom I had years ago that I didn't really like and ended up getting rid of, or something like that. So it's just a plastic needle. That's kind of what you want. It makes it easier to thread the yarn through. Get yourself a bunch of yarn on it, do a little knot on the end. And this is the most important part with sewing it together, is you want to make sure that you're going to have it looking like this. So if you happen to sew it wrong, which means you want them to face each other, so if they're, see how these are boo-boos? You know, this is how you can see the line. I messed up and I didn't have them right, so I had to redo a whole bunch because I sewed it wrong. So 1, take your time. 2, try not to have too many distractions, because it's very easy to think, oh, I just got to plop them on, and it's very easy to like, oh, I'll go like this, and then the next thing you know, like, you're putting them on, okay, the white has to be there, and then you go like this and you realize you messed up. So really pay attention. You want the 2 solid colors without any lines to be facing each other, so that when you look at it this way, like a sandwich, okay, you can kind of see how it lines up. And see how I said you can kind of match it. You're going to keep an eye on it, because you don't want it to be like wonky where like this moves over. That's not going to give you your checkerboard, right? Because if we look at it this way, you're going to be messing it up. You want to really think that each square has to be sewn to the color it's supposed to be. So you're going to line it up as best you can to be that, and then you're going to start at one end with your needle, and you're going in the edge. See how I like this little edge? I mean, I don't know if I have enough yarn to do this all the way through, and I'm just going to kind of hold it as I go, keeping an eye that I'm keeping the colors together. And you may need more yarn on here than I actually have. I might have to do 2 times because this doesn't have a lot. And you're just going to sew it through. Give me a little tug, and I'm going right along the edge. I'm just trying to see if you can see how they're lined up. I'm just trying to go just under those stitches. I think this is called like a mattress stitch. I'm not really sure. This is just the way I'm sewing it together. So if anyone knows the technical term for how I'm sewing these, please let me know. And again, I'm keeping an eye, making sure my colors are lined up as I can be. My 2 off pieces are that way, so that when I sew this together, your best bet too is when you get a little ways down, you can easily go like this and say, okay, I got the right side. So I'm just working it through, keeping an eye on, I'm not stretching it too much so that I can go all the way across my color. And I'm just working one little stitch area at a time. I'm definitely going to need more on here to do this whole one. And I just chose red. You can probably try this with white. I just chose to do red. Red's one of my favorite colors. So that's the plus when Terry challenged me to this. I'm like, hey, at least it's red. I like red. Again, I'm lining up to make sure that I end where I need to be. I'm giving it a little tug. And so this will be the most time consuming because you're going to be working this all the way. I'm going to check and make sure I'm lining it up right. Okay. Just like I said, just going into the stitches so they go together. Okay, you're getting closer to the end here. And if you want to check before you tie it off, just go like this and open it up, and you can see that they're lined up pretty good. A little wonky down there, but nothing, that's not too bad. So you're getting our pattern together. So now we're going to be like, okay, we're going to close this off. Okay, now I'm going to go in. I'm going to kind of create a knot, I guess. This is how I did it with the other ones. I kind of went through. Then I kind of came back and I went through the new loop. If that makes any sense to anybody, I'm sure you know what I mean. So I can try to bind off that. And sometimes if I'm really particular, I go to a pass stitch. See, I was kind of making that loop. And I kind of just go back in there. So it kind of helps create that knot. And then I just got to cut it. And there you go. That is one of many sewing together. So again, you're going to take the next color and you're going to do the same thing. This is where it gets tricky because you already have two of these together. Now you need to do your third. So now you need to match up to this one. So again, you're going to do the same thing, making sure the two wrongs are flat up against each other. And again, getting the stragglers. Don't let the stragglers be in the front. Push them to the inside. That's why if you do want to hide the stragglers, you can. If you're somebody that's going to get confused, go ahead and hide them in the project a little bit and trim them down. But you want the stragglers to be on the inside of this wreath ring. So we're going to want to pack the next color like that. And that's all we're going to do again, is we're going to sew that together. So let me get my needle ready again, and I'll show you one last time with this one. Okay, so now I want to add the next color. You really got to pay attention to how you're laying it on. Because again, you want all your stragglers to be on the wrong side of the fabric. This fabric that has the white or the red extra lines. So you're going to put them face down onto the good colors, and you're going to work this edge. Again, making sure all your stragglers are going to be on the wrong side of your fabric, okay? Which means they're going to be all this way. And then we're going to do the same thing we did, okay? Because we got our wrong side there, and that way when we open this up, it will be the part we need. So we're just going to make sure all our stragglers, I probably should have just trimmed them, but I just didn't want to. But if you want to trim them, and sometimes you can use these to your advantage. If you want to use these to tie the two pieces together, you could thread that through and use that to tie it, but I'm just going to sew it same as I did the other one. So again, the main thing you're doing is focusing on which way your pattern goes. And that's what the hardest part is figuring out exactly which way. Oh, that's a straggler from over here, okay. Exactly which way you need to fold them and sew them together so that they actually show up the right way. So if I go this side, I'm going to be able to flip it and it's going to be the right way. So that's one thing to do, to check yourself so that you don't get too far where you can't, like I did, where I put a few together and didn't realize, oh shoot, I messed up. And I had a hard time, I couldn't get them really together, apart that well, and I almost had to start over making strips because I messed up. So really pay attention to how you're laying them on there. If you choose to do a flat panel that just has this checkerboard panel to sew on, that's another option you could do too. So I'm just making sure all my stragglers are on the wrong side of the project. And you can kind of hide some of the stragglers in if you want to, as you're sewing. And I'm making sure that I'm lining up my colors as best I can. And it may look like a jumbled mess, but again, you're going to be able to work this any way that you see fit to make it look better. It's just for me, I have the stragglers. Like this one is just not cooperating right now. It's because you're the one that goes in there. Why are you fighting me? There we go. I just didn't pull the right string. That's all. Okay, so then we're just going to keep working our way. And like I said, this will be the most time-consuming process of it. The rest of the stuff, getting it on the, well, probably the most tedious, because you really are paying attention to what you're doing, versus, that sounds like a weird one, versus the other one. So almost to the end. I'm just checking every now and then. Yep, I'm lining it up pretty good. So just keep on going. And this is what you're going to do to get all your strips that you've made attached together. Really paying attention to how they're laying so that when you open it up, it gives you that checkerboard look. Find this one off here. It's not pretty. There's probably other ways to do it. It's just the way that I decided for this project. Again, feel free to modify anything that you need to. So again, we've got 4. So keep doing this, paying attention to how you sew them together to make sure all your wrong sides are going to be on the wrong side. All your straggles are on the side. You don't want to sew them where they're sticking out this way. So this is what we got. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to continue doing this until you get your long strip of all the ones that you are using together. One last thing I forgot to say is you also want to close off the pieces together to kind of make this like a tube to put onto the wreath ring. So I'm just taking the 2 good ends, just keeping my straggles off to the side here, and I'm just going to put these 2 together, and I'm going to go off camera and I'm just going to sew this closed so that we'll end up having more like a tube that we'll put onto the wreath ring. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go off camera and I'm just going to sew off this so that the 2 ends will join. As you can tell, because we ended it on a red, white, red, and now white, red, white, it'll be fine for our matching. So keep that in mind too, is that you want enough so that you have the 2 opposites are the last 2 that you... Okay guys, so I kind of went ahead and put the wreath things kind of together because I didn't want to waste you guys' time. So this is how it's going to look. And all I did to make it simple, because if I was selling this wreath, I would do this a little differently, but all I did when I put it on is I used little mini safety pins for right now, because I still have to attach the cord that's going to help this hang on the wall. I still need to attach some other things in order to make the syrup drip, so I didn't want to sew it closed right now until I knew that I didn't need to like somehow access the inside of it if there was something I forgot to do. So I just went around and I just safety pinned it at each color, and it actually holds pretty good. So if you're somebody that doesn't want to have to sew this all up, then you'll be fine with this if it's just for your own home. But if you're going to sell this, obviously sew this up so you don't have this as a safety hazard. But also if you do the safety pins first, it'll help you, it'll guide you as you're sewing, because it'll already kind of have the pieces together for you. So this might be a good first step before you sew, is to put these on. Again, later I will sew this closed, but because I still need to add my cord to be able to hang it with, and I have some fishing wire that needs to go inside, I didn't want to sew it up yet. So this would be, save sewing it up for almost like one of your last tasks, I would say, when you know you don't need to access the inside for anything else. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the things that need to be on the front. The first thing I'm going to work on is going to be like the pancake, which I already have an idea for that. We need the syrup bottle, sorry, and then we also need our syrup mess up here. If you relook at the picture, just one last time, you can kind of see that we have some dangly syrup we need to do, and then we have to do our syrup mess. Now, I'm not sure if I'm actually going to have as big of a mess as Terry had on hers. We'll see, but I'm going to show you the things that I'm going to be kind of using for this next part. I'm not exactly going to show you every little piece of how to do things, because I feel like that would be a little redundant. So I'm just going to show you the material so far that I'm going to be using for some of this process. So as I mentioned, because we have the dangly syrup, I actually have some fishing wire that I'm going to use. So again, for this part with the fishing wire come down, I just had some leftover fishing wire that I used for, I think, a different project. This one just says 12 pound, 100 yards. I don't know what that means in fishing lore, but I like this because it's kind of see-through, as you can see. I think when I'm holding it, you can't really see it. So I think that's going to be perfect to help dangle the syrup down. So we're going to use that to do the syrup part. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut what I need. I'm going to attach the little syrup droplets, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew it. I'm going to try to sew it like on the inside in here so that it'll dangle from the middle. That's why I'm keeping it like this on the back, so I can access easier to be able to tie it on the back. So that's what I'm going to do for the syrup. And I'll explain more once I actually do it. But I'm going to do all that stuff off camera, so that way you guys don't have to see me do the boring stuff. But to show you what I'm doing for the, for the pancake itself, we've got this plate. So I picked up some of these cheap plastic plates from the Dollar Tree. But what I'm actually doing, because of the size, I mean, obviously, as you can tell, the size of these are very big compared to the plate. So what I did is I just kind of cut out the middle. Okay, so I went into this and I just cut out the middle circle to kind of be my plate. and I feel like that's going to be more proportioned. Then I used some cardboard from my recycling bin, and I made a somewhat shape of a pancake, so that's going to be going on top of that. And then I'll add some more detail to give it define. But it's not going to look like that when it's done, because I have some felt here, and my pancake color is going to be this brown felt. So I'm going to be covering this up with some brown felt. This is actually called, what is it called? Oh, of course I can't find the name. Cashmere or something or other? Let me see. Cashmere tan. I got this from Walmart. So I'm going to take this and cover this to be my pancake. I'm going to put a little more details onto my plate. But again, I cut that, and I feel like that is going to give us a good proportion size to this wreath thing, being a little bigger. And now for my syrup color, as you can see in the one drawing that Terry did, she didn't do really dark syrup, like brown or anything like that. It felt like it had an orangey hue to it. So, and of course I want to make sure I can make the smiley face show up on it, because otherwise, you know, it won't show up if I do a darker color. So I picked up this color to kind of be my syrupy color. Let me see if I can get in the light. This is actually called, ironically, pumpkin spice, which I believe is one of my cousin's favorite flavors or something. But it's called pumpkin spice, and I thought that would really complement the beige tan to be the pancake and to be the syrup. So I will be making the pancake with this one, and then wherever there needs to be syrup on this picture, I'm going to be using this pumpkin spice for that. And now as for the eyes and that of this, I'm going to probably just use a magic marker, I think, because I think that'll be the easiest, and I think it'll show up on the felt okay. If not, I may change out what I do, and I'll explain when I get to that part. The syrup bottle, that's the thing that's been the most difficult for me to figure out how to do. I would love for you to suggest things that you think I should have been using down below, so I'll explain that when I get to that. And then again, we just got to add our extra syrup. I don't know if we'll be able to put as much on, because I only have 2 pieces of felt. I probably should have got more, but so that's what the plan is. So when I get back here, I'll be showing everything kind of on there. And all I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to glue pieces together. I've got a craft glue that I'll show you guys when I'm done, but all I'm going to be doing is, like I said, I'm going to take my basic design, wherever it went, my paint, like, I'm going to glue this stuff together. I'm going to glue this to this, and glue felt to this, and do it in stages, and it's all going to be glued down as best I can onto the project. This craft glue should hold. I should only have to maybe turn this thing over and lay something heavy on it just to make sure it adheres to it. So I'm going to be gluing all these elements on with this craft glue I have and letting it dry. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to pretty much try to finish off this wreath, and then I'll come back and I'll explain, because I feel like what I'm doing is very simple: cutting out designs, felting them, giving them a little more detail, gluing on the syrup, which will be a little tricky, because like I said, this craft glue will work, but it needs some time to dry. It is a good craft glue because it is quick drying at least, so I have to figure out if I have enough to do all the spots that Terry has of syrup. I may only be able to do maybe this one and the hanging down one, but I'm hoping I can get enough, if I do it right, to be able to do all the parts that she has. At least this section and this. I may not be able to get that little bit there, but we'll see. And then the syrup that goes on the pancake. So I'm pretty excited. So I'm going to go ahead and put all these elements onto this. That way when I know I'm officially done, I can go around and I can decide if I want to sew this all up once I'm done accessing it. Like I said, for the syrup that's dripping, I'm going to use the fishing wire, so I'm going to need to undo one of these so I can tie the fishing wire so it can dangle. And then I'm also going to need to leave a spot open to be able to make where I'm going to attach a cord so that this can hang up on the wall. And then I can sew it all up if I choose to. But again, it's going to depend on what you want to do with it. If you're not going to give it to anybody or try to sell it, then you don't worry about sewing it up, because no one's going to see it. But if you're going to sell this or give it to somebody, I would sew off the back just to make it a little more clean and a little less chance of somebody getting hurt off the thing. So I'm going to go get all my elements on here, and I'll see you when the wreath is pretty much done. Okay guys, it's done, but I'm not happy with it. This is what it's supposed to look like, okay, as you saw me share throughout the video. I'm kind of embarrassed to show this because it's probably one of the worst things I've done. I tried several times, redid several things, just could not get it to be the way I envisioned it in my head, and the way I didn't want to invest too much more money into it and stuff, but it was one of those things like, oh god, this is what I got, and I'm pretty sure my cousin's going to win, which Terry will love. Again, the links to her video and everything will be down below. You guys ready? Like I said, I used like a plastic plate and felt and other things around the house to make the things to go on top of it. I found a little bottle that I turned into a syrup bottle that ended up coming out really crappy, and I didn't realize it until after I had it already, because I thought it looked nice. I glued it onto the wreath, and now it doesn't look as good as it did when I first did it. So, you guys ready for the non-masterpiece of what I made? This is probably, like I said, one of the worst wreaths I've made. Here goes nothing. This is what I ended up with. Hoping you can see it. I do like using the fishing wire for the droplets, because I feel like that was a good call. I didn't get the drop the way I wanted. And this almost looks like a piece of bacon instead of syrup. It was just, oh my god, everything that could fight me fought me on this thing. No matter how many times I retried filming stuff, no matter how many times I tried different stuff, finally I just said, you know what, you gotta get this done. You're obviously just not going to be able to get it the way that you envisioned it right now. So, this is it. And I'm pretty sure my cousin Terry just won this wreath challenge. I mean, I like the idea of the felt for the pancake. The plate could have used some work, definitely. I mean, if I were to redo it, I definitely would do a little more to it. I mean, I may attempt to make this again in the future when I just feel like the spirits will align or whatever, and things will go the way I planned. Even using my scissors didn't want to work right. Like, it just drove me nuts. And I redid the pancake, the plate, so much stuff so many times. I originally had a different idea for the serve out. As you can tell, it looks really crappy because the brown paint I put inside this little bottle didn't coat it as well as I thought it did, and I'd already glued it on there before I realized it looked like that, and I didn't want to rip it off right now. So I may try to redo this wreath in the future when things will cooperate with me. So I'm pretty sure Terry won, like I said. So again, make sure you check her link down below. I will have her link to her specific wreath video, but there'll also be her channel link, obviously. And please head over there and give her some love. Subscribe to her channel if you see stuff that you like. You know, I definitely think this was an interesting collab, and it did make some things out of my element from what I normally do. So I would say that I don't work with felt that often. I don't work with, fishing wire that often. So it did take me out of my comfort zone a little bit. I just wish it would have came out better. But yeah, here it is, my little pancake wreath. I do like the checkered pattern. I do feel like I did pretty well on that. I like that. That's all my favorite thing of it. And I didn't even sew the back of this thing because I'm like, this is not going to anybody. This is just going to be something I will probably put somewhere in my failed pile, and I don't know what I'll ever do with this. But yeah, I do, like I said, I like the way I did the checkered pattern. I think that's something that I'll definitely take this idea of the checkered and do a different project with it. But there you go. Terry, I think you won. I hope you guys enjoyed this little blooper. I really feel bad because I know this video was super long. I kept thinking, I'm like, oh, this video is long, and now they're to the end, and it's very like, damn. I don't swear. You guys know I don't swear that much, but that's what it felt like at the end. Like, oh no, this did not come out. But I also just wanted to show that because I think it's really important for you guys to be willing to make mistakes and learn from them. And I definitely learned some stuff through this process, things that I will definitely do again, things I won't do again. So it's all a learning curve. And again, I would love to see one of you tackle this wreath project and show me up. Like, I would love for you to tackle this idea and post it on my social media for me to see and for Terry to see, to let us know that we're inspiring you guys to do something. I would love for someone to take this and do this so much better. Like, if I was better at crochet, I would have probably crocheted the pancakes, crocheted the syrup to be drippy, but I'm not an expert crocheter. But again, I didn't mind the felt. It gets a little fuzzy. I didn't mind using the felt. It just would not cooperate. So many things. So many things, guys. But I hope this inspires you guys to know that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have something you look at and that kind of just makes you laugh, and know that it can only go up from here. So I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed this challenge between my cousin and I. And again, show them some love. And if you like this video, even though the pancake does not look that appealing or the wreath doesn't look that great, please give this video a thumbs up. And again, comment down below any suggestions you have that if I were to redo this, way in the future will say, what should I have done differently? Like, what would you suggest that I should have done differently than what I did? And if you want to share this video to make people laugh, go ahead. Go right ahead. But I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day. This looks so bad. when you're trying to film and there's a cat that found a new spot right next to your filming area. Foster, are you quite comfy there? Yeah? You gonna be quiet when I film? We shall see, guys. So if you hear any meowing in any of this video for this wreath, it's him.